Welcome to Doom Skull Patrol, the news roundup show where we go through the news so you don't have to. Today we are talking about some interesting shit. We're going to be talking about climate change. We're going to be talking about the leak that signaled around the world. We're going to be talking about the Moonies, and we're going to be talking about Doge and some nonsense that's happened up here in Canada. I'm Aaron Hickey McKay.
I'm Harold Moss.
I'm Hannah Snape.
And I'm Sam Perez.
Stick around, you're not going to want to miss it. The thing I think is the most important news that we could probably start with is, did you see all these Studio Ghibli memes? It is horrifying.
It is horrifying.
What? I hate this so, like, why are we doing this? Let's, like, I don't know. I'm just going to drop this in the chat.
We're doing it because they're approaching trillions of dollars of investment into AI and still trying to figure out what it's for. Like, I just got a bill from Google saying we're raising your cost for your Gmail suite because of all the advantages we've added AI. And I'm like, I don't want the AI. I never have used the AI.
Take it away.
They are desperately looking for reasons to have AI, and I guess stealing the greatest animation hand-drawn artwork in the world and turning it into shitty memes is the latest.
Oh, now that I see this is totally worth it. We got Ben Affleck smoking as a Studio Ghibli character. That was definitely worth it. We got the horrifying J.D. Vance Ghibli'd in his like weird boyish long hair freaky thing. That's definitely worth it.
So Granddad, why did you use up the last of the fresh water? And why did you finally tip everything into a climate apocalypse?
Well,
because I needed Colonel Sanders to look like
in Studio Ghibli style.
Is this JFK assassination? Is that what?
Yeah, that's the JFK assassination.
Yeah.
I mean, she looks so like there's just like so much expression in her eyes now.
Yeah, it's great.
It's great to talk about a dead president being assassinated in a traumatic moment in history. Lol, it looks like it came from Princess Mononoke.
Yeah, it's I saw that happening yesterday, which is, for everyone knowing, that was the 26th of March is when I started noticing it. And to plug Undeniable's social media, I did a quick video about it, just of like, why are we doing this? Like, what the fuck is this? So Studio Ghibli is in the news, and it's not for cool reasons. In fact, it's for the dumbest goddamn reasons possible. And the reason is because AI bros have got their nipples all hard because they created a AI filter that turns your pictures and stuff into Studio Ghibli style art. But, and then it just goes back to, because I end it with Miyazaki's quote on AI, which where he's like, essentially, it's an insult to life itself. And that's all I see. It was when I see that shit. It's just like,
well, it's not just an insult. It's a literal attack, because the way they are generating this stuff is not only just theft, just straight up theft. It's stealing artwork and churning it out into pablum, which is the opposite of everything that Studio Ghibli was about, which is about...
What is that? What's pablum?
Like,
is it just like nonsense?
Digestible baby food.
Digestible baby food.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So turning it into pablum, when Studio Ghibli's whole history was about frame by frame. Like, there's a thing you can see where like a 4-second clip took an animator 15 months to make of a crowd scene. And it's all about the craft. And that's why when you watch those films, particularly as an animator, just seeing the intention and the craft and the beauty, just watching that on the frame is like harmonizing with the universe. I mean, it really feels like that as an animator watching that, and to see it just turned into this social media fodder to try and justify the final destruction of all life on Earth, to justify $1 trillion of investment in unneeded AI stuff is particularly poignant.
Well, and I think too, one of the tweets I saw was,
what would Princess Mononoke do? She would come out and fucking behead.
She'd ride on a fucking giant wolf.
She'd ride on a giant wolf and just lay waste to OpenAI. There would just
that's the other part. It's like Miyazaki is so like anti-industrial, anti-environmentalism, or I mean, he is pro-environmentalism, anti-industrialism. It's like this is the it just shows that like people don't give a shit. And then there was like this tweet where someone's like, "Oh, art is finally accessible," and it's like, you fucking dickheads! It's always been accessible. Even Miyazaki himself was like, "All my movies start with paper and a pencil." Yeah. That's how I started.
All you have to do is actually fucking learn the craft.
Yeah,
work.
but these fucking shitbirds don't want to just sit there and like hammer out. That's the hard part about like art, which I'm sure people will like, you know, relate to, is like even like me doing writing or like any kind of art, music, right? It's hammering it out. It's sitting there every day doing it. It's kind of like to use what one of my mentors told me is like with writing specifically, but I think it applies to everything, is like, it's not like your brain that writes or creates music. It's your butt, because you just have to sit there and just hammer it out.
That's particularly when I'm writing. I would say my butt is pretty much the source of everything.
But no, like that's what it is. And it's like, that's these people, and it just shows like they're just lazy. They don't want to do it.
I think you're right to react to that quote of my quote, that tweet of someone saying, "Oh, art is finally accessible." Motherfucker, it's not supposed to be accessible. The whole point of why it's valuable is that someone took a whole bunch of time to master a craft, create a style, and then come up with something new in the world that was impossible to do up until this moment. The entire universe had to unfold to that moment where the node of your being created and birthed something absolutely brand new into the universe. It's not supposed to be accessible like that. Not everyone can just do that. That's the whole point of art.
This is just the hit a button, make something feel like you're an artist is definitely another, like the circling the drain of the end.
Yeah, it's like artificial intelligence makes you feel like you're thinking when you write it a prompt and you're like, here, write my essay for you. This is just the same version of that.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, like, seeing I'm just trying to figure out which one of these memes I like the best. I don't know, the Bernie meme looks pretty funny. I am once again asking you to create more Studio Ghibli memes. It keeps me going back and forth.
But I will say, just to round up on Miyazaki, I mean, his whole philosophy comes out of the Japanese tradition of animism, in that nature is alive and has a spirit, and everything has a spirit. And he, beautifully renders that out in things like, Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke, which is, I think, it doesn't matter if it's a metaphor or not. It's obviously fucking literally true. And there's like an intention to this desecration of the idea that nature and everything in it has intention, has purpose, has spirit, and actually works together with this thing that is literally using that, stealing it all, and then generating not just creative pablum, but by accelerating climate destruction, using up all the fresh water, is actually just turning the earth into a featureless pool of pablum, right? It's just literally slashing away biodiversity in order to create this theft. I don't know. That was not very well articulated, but
well, for the listeners at home, take a shot every time Harold says pablum.
Take a shot of pablum.
Yeah, take a shot of pablum.
You're gonna be so full of pablum by the end of it. You're gonna be like, "Oh, this goo is delicious." Yeah. Hannah, you're an animator as well. Any last thoughts? We've been sort of monopolizing the conversation.
Well, I was gonna mention, like, Miyazaki. He's one of the very few artists ever in, like, I don't know, the public eye, that he doesn't sexualize anybody. Every female character he's ever made is always just for the story. They're just the character to fill their role. They're not, it's, I don't know, he's just so wholesome and beautiful, and his art is just, it's so pure, and I don't understand why this beautiful thing is now just being corrupted by,
because because tech bros are literally the end of us.
Well, I think
they
too,
just
it's like,
don't give a shit.
it's like that's the big thing, like with tech bros and people on the right too, is like it's only the aesthetic. They don't give a shit. It's kind of like the trad wife shit. It's like, oh, look me like make cornflakes out of like actual corn and like I'm feeding my family. And it's like, yeah, what about like slopping the pigs and fucking digging the latrine? I don't see you doing that. How come it's always like this very curated image? And I feel like this is an offshoot of that, because it's like they don't give a shit about Miyazaki's like his themes and all the work he puts into it. They just want it to be something fun that they can just like slap on to whatever they are.
That's really interesting, because if you think about it, like there's the trad wife, which is just like a TikTok, Instagram curated illusion of, right? And it is the same thing, because what really we need, of course, is mutual aid and starting to build resilient local food and energy
Which is what Miyazaki talks about.
And that's what Miyazaki talks about.
He's
and
about
that's
community.
what we really need. But these people are absolutely opposed to the doing the work and the things that will give us those resilient local networks and mutual aid and things we're going to need to survive.
Well, because then the market
All for
can't
the image.
sell you these things
Right.
that you could otherwise create on your own.
Well, and part of what they're selling is just fascism, right? That's the biggest product behind it all, is just, you know.
Yeah,
that's
we're creating,
my
like, especially the trad
tagline,
wife stuff.
also known as fascism.
Communism, fascism, voodooism.
So obviously, the biggest story of the week was dominated by, well, who's introducing this? I don't want to take over.
What I realized
I
is
think you can. It's fine.
I started a song on it,
Oh my goodness!
but I
Another
just-
song.
But I didn't have time because I kept on getting interrupted. So
Regular.
Yeah, your group. You keep getting invited to group chats to plan bombing runs.
yeah, exactly.
Another one.
Well, if you're gonna be bombing a country, you ought not be bombing, because the neocons never gave up on the dreams of invading republics Islamic. And you need some distraction from destroying the nation for Putin. And everyone bombs the Houthis, including Biden, so everyone will be rooting for you.
Wow.
There we go.
Yeah, woo!
I would just say keep working on it.
The leak is
Yeah,
that the entire cabinet is planning bombing runs on Yemen in Signal on their private phones with messages set to delete. So
In a month.
in a month, which is, so they're doing this to get around preservation of government records, so they can do and say whatever they want, including how much they hate Europe. But then someone included the editor of The Atlantic.
I wrote this
Jeffrey
down.
Goldberg.
Thank you,
Yeah, so
Jeffrey
somebody included Jeffrey Goldberg, an editor of The Atlantic, on the group chat, which is why we know about it. And we also know that they were doing other group chats about other things. So this is how they do it. And so there's layers to this. First of all,
Do we know why he was included? Did they ever
no,
say?
we don't know. We
I think
don't
it was
know.
just an accident, as far as
It
we
was an
know.
accident or something, like Lord knows. I mean,
I don't know which Jeffrey. Maybe Jeff Goldblum they were trying to add into.
Yeah,
Just,
because who doesn't want
that's
Jeff Goldblum in their group chat?
he
Look,
did
if we
very
could-
good in Independence Day. Like he
If we
came
could-
through in the end.
If we could get Jeff Goldblum in our chat, I would do it. But like, there's so many layers to this. First of all, there's the fact that we should be wondering, why the fuck are we bombing Yemen, right? But no one's questioning that, because everybody's happy bombing.
Well, I mean,
Houthis.
it's
I mean,
simple.
I can tell you why.
The
Yeah, they're
Saudis
brown-
do it, the Israelis
brown
do
in the
it,
Middle East.
Biden
Like,
did
duh.
it, the U.S. No, I know. I'm just saying we should start by
Well,
saying
it's a
actually
shipping
there
lane
should-
thing.
It's a shipping
they're-
lane thing.
They're
yeah.
blocking the Suez, and
Yeah.
like that's dangerous for shipping, and you got to keep global trade going. And as they were kind of complaining, so let's just back up here. Who's in the group chat? We got Vice President J.D. Vance. We got Pete Hegseth, the I guess he's the Secretary
of
of
Defense.
Defense.
We got Marco Rubio in there, who doesn't say much. We got
Tulsi Gabbard, our
Was Tulsi- was-
oh yeah,
was
yeah,
Tulsi-
our
yeah,
our,
Tulsi
she
Gabbard
was,
was in
and
there?
she absolutely was, and then was one of the people lying to Congress about it afterwards.
And so basically, they're just talking about, oh, you know, we gotta like fucking bomb these people. And then he comes in there. This be Pete Hegseth comes in there with specifics about like what kind of artillery they're using, the planes that are going out, what the order is. So classified information. This would be stuff that no one outside of the government who's doing this run should technically know.
And then doesn't JD Vance say like, "I'll pray for you" or something? I thought I saw
I will
that.
say
Maybe
a
Yes,
prayer
he did.
for victory.
Okay, there we go.
If you read it, JD Vance didn't want to do this because he was pissed off because you're basically the Suez Canal. Most of the trade that goes through there is bound for Europe. A very tiny amount goes to the United States. So he's like, "What's the?"
So they're
point?
like, why are we're trying to,
Yeah, why are we
we're trying to
doing a friend?
undermine, we're undermining Europe these days.
Why are we doing a favor for Europe? They talk about extracting some sort of compensation from them later on, which is extraordinarily transactional. But it shows you where their allegiances are. But in the end, it was kind of like Pete Hedges were like, "We're doing it," and he's like, "Fine, I'll pray for our victory." Which to me is like, oh, I just kind of assumed all of these people were nihilists and didn't actually give a shit about their religion. They just used it as a means of social control and gaining power. But he really believes in his invisible sky daddy, in wanting him to help blow up other people on the other side of the world.
Well,
he really truly believes that.
I think
And
that you
to
may
me
be
that was
right.
a learning thing.
So there's layers to this. There's a lot of this is definitely an onion kind of situation. First of all, it's that these people, in addition to
'Cause
being
it stinks.
self-evidently evil,
Makes me want to cry.
self-evidently evil, they really are idiots, right? They are just not bright. This is like we've spent a century preventing this kind of nonsense, and then they just come out and break every rule without any thought of consequences, and then copy somebody from the Atlantic and even miss that. But it goes way beyond just him being copied, because there's a reason why. Now, one might have a feeling about national security for the United States and what should be secret and not, but as they are running it right now, there's a reason you don't use private devices, because they're so easily compromised. And it doesn't matter that you're using Signal, because, and this is true for anybody listening, if you ever think you're being private on Signal, yes, the encryption end to end is hard to break, but they don't need to do that. They just need to get spyware in your device or have someone looking over your shoulder while you're doing it. And the one guy was in Moscow and almost using his private device on a chat. It's almost 100% certain that Russia was in there. Of course, not really a problem, because Tulsi Gabbard was probably forwarding the entire chat to Putin regardless, as she's still quite openly a Putin works for him, So now they have allowed every intelligence agency on the planet probably has absolute access to every conversation happening. It's just, there is no security. So it is not just this one chat. They have just thrown open the gates to every single person in the world. That the problem is that it's intelligence agencies. It should be the rest of us, right? So all the spies get to see what they're doing from every country, everywhere, but they're trying to hide it from everybody else, right? That's what's really going on.
And just to sort of add a little context there, you're saying the guy, Steve Witkoff was in Moscow.
Steve Witkoff was in Moscow while on the chat on his personal phone.
He was meeting with Vladimir Putin.
Right.
That's where he
So again, with Putin, they're probably forwarding all of this anyways, right?
Well, we don't know, but he's probably getting it regardless.
But they're getting it regardless. But everybody,
if they're on their personal devices, and if not them, if anyone has access to Pegasus through the Israeli government or whatever, you don't have any privacy.
Yeah, you don't have it regardless, and that's why they don't use private devices to talk about this kind of thing. And then, and it's not just this
they violated the
conversation.
Espionage Act, maybe.
Everything, and
nothing
it just
means anything anymore.
No, nothing means.
Notice how they can't use DEI for this one, and
Right.
notice how this shit didn't happen when DEI was a thing.
Here's the thing: they'll find a way. They'll figure something.
Oh yeah, fascism
They'll
finds a way.
Yeah, they'll shoehorn. They'll blame it on some black guy or someone. They'll figure it out. Wait, Tulsi Gabbard, woman, right?
Yeah,
So there we go.
There we
Not
go.
her fault. There are some very concerning messages in this. I have
sure.
all the things in here, but just the way they speak about some things. Like this guy, If there are
Yeah, what
any
gives you
things,
pause?
if there are any things we can do up front to minimize risk to Saudi oil facilities, we should do it. So that is just like
Well,
I
that is
think
the
that
name
makes
of the
perfect
game.
sense.
I
I mean, that
it
makes perfect
tracks,
sense
but
given
like, oof.
that would have been the case regardless of who's in power, because
Yeah.
you get oil from Saudi Arabia.
We're
as the
all
United
working for
States.
the Sauds. That's basically the house that we all work for them. I mean, that's how the world works.
I think the Saudis are pretty cool, don't you? They're going to build that big lion city.
Right.
Um,
Oh,
they-
are we angling for some Saudi sponsorship money?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
I mean,
I
in
saw that
case,
Vice Media got a whole bunch of money from them. I think if we play our cards right, we could probably get some money from them as well.
the climate crisis, we need to ramp down fossil fuels as fast and fairly as possible, except for Saudi oil.
Yeah.
That'll be our new line, right?
Saudi Arabia, solar capital.
Solar
there's
capital.
There's a lot of.
They're using
sunshine
all
there.
that oil to make solar panels, so their oil is good. I don't know if I can do this. I'm a really bad sellout.
Have
I'm a
you
shitty sellout.
have you guys watched some of the interviews with what's his face? Whoever is it, JD Vance that they interview about this? I don't
Well,
know.
they
Let's
were-
play the clip.
Yeah, we'll play the clip.
My communications, to be clear, in a signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful and did not include classified information.
Well, we
To
will
be
make
clear.
that determination, because if it's not classified, share the text with the committee. Let me go on. Director Gabbard, you are the security executive and set access guidelines for classified information. Did you contact the defense secretary or others after this specific military planning was put out and say, hey, we should be doing this in a skiff?
There was no classified material that was shared in that
So then,
signal
if there was no
check.
classified material, share it with the committee. You can't have it both ways. These are important jobs. This is our national security. Bobbing and weaving and trying to, filibuster your answer. So please answer the question. If this was Director Gabbard, if this was a rank and file intelligence officer who did this kind of careless behavior, what would you do with them?
Senator, I'll reiterate that there was no classified material that was shared in that
And if there's
signal.
no classified materials, share. And then if there's no classified materials, then you can't even answer the question whether you're on the chat. This is strangely familiar, and I think my colleagues will remember, when you couldn't answer the question, is Edward Snowden a traitor?
And your ass offness.
It was hilarious to just see them try to cover their asses because there's no confidential information shared. So the board is like, okay, well then share it with us so we can see. But they can't.
And then the Atlantic was like, wait, you're lying, and we have the receipts. And then the Atlantic then published the confidential information. And then they had to come back and say, I didn't recall what was in the chat. I mean, that's literally what they're doing.
Yeah, the I didn't recall thing is always a good excuse because they don't know whether or not you're lying. It's
Oh, wait,
possible-
shocking news on the signal leak front. Shocking. I did not expect this. I had low expectations for Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, but she's suggesting that the leak is unlikely to be criminally investigated. Didn't see that coming.
Cool.
All right.
What's there to investigate? We know exactly what fucking happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently someone's number was under the wrong name in the contact list. And
Well, but it's
that's how
also
it
the fact that there is again, they have exposed every conversation for the entire cabinet to the entire world's intelligence communities. There is no secret in the United States. Every intelligence agency has access to everything now, and they probably can't undo that even if they stop using their devices. They have screwed the security pooch so fully that the pooch is now pregnant with maggots.
Let's not get into that anymore. I
Some,
don't.
I'm gonna shut that down.
So what you're saying
shut
is
it down.
we need to bring back the Navajo code talkers.
Arizona, Joe King, go, and then Joe King,
I have another topic that I didn't put on the document because you missed this, Aaron, but it's because I'm a dick. and just didn't get around to it. We were before we came on. Anyways, the in climate news, because there's always good climate news to be going on. 2024 was not only for a decade straight now the hottest year in human history in all of our records. It's also over 150 unprecedented climate disasters in 2024. And what that means by unprecedented, it means for the region, the disaster exceeded all disasters in that region. So the heat going up to 130 degrees in parts of Australia and India and so far. The flooding, the superstorm, whatever it is, 150 that meant disasters that stripped away previous records in each one, and 800,000 people displaced around the world. And this is the beginning, right? This is the beginning because this has been 10 years in a row. So we are really looking at the unraveling of many life systems, right? We're just really looking at that. It's the World Meteorological Organization State of the Global Climate 2024. I'm putting that in the chat. We could actually reference that. So when we look at this global balance between fascists embracing fossil fuels and humanity trying to survive, like the fact that they're not just doubling down on making climate change worse, they are very actively trying to destroy the ability to respond to it. Case in point, Musk has a freeze on FEMA, which is the disaster relief organization in the United States. They are the ones that come in and rebuild the roads and the bridges and clear the wreckage. And so they are very intentionally doubling down on increasing fossil fuel output, speeding up climate disasters, and disabling the government's ability to respond to it at the same time. And this is really the kind of the inception of evil that we're going to be dealing with going forward in this.
So not to say no to this, I agree with everything you said. But I also don't want to leave people with the sense that everything's fucking doomed, because at the same time, the International Energy Agency came out this week as well with their own report. Not everything is glowing and great in it. Obviously, there's some bad stuff in it. Energy demand was sort of stabilizing, but then spiked up a lot because of all of the heat disasters that we've had, where people are like, oh shit, we need to burn a whole bunch more coal to keep AC on. Otherwise, a lot of people are going to fucking die. That said, some of the silver lining stuff was basically saying that despite what Trump does, oil is starting to stall and then sort of peak in demand and go into structural decline. Oil has now fallen below 30% of total energy demand for the first time in 50 years. It's basically stalled in terms of how much is being consumed. It's growth of 0.8% or something like that. But EV sales are at 25%. They've grown 25% rather. So, you're right that what the Trump administration is doing, but the U.S. is not the rest of the world. There is a lot going on outside of the world.
I would really frame it as where the stakes are, and
of course,
and where the sides are lined up. And it's not just Trump; it's the global authoritarian movement, which Putin embracing oil. It's the Sauds, it's House of Saud, it's all of them doubling down on extraction of fossil fuels and crippling the ability to do anything about it, and having a life reduced planet that they have absolute ironclad control. But that does not mean that they are the winning side. Those are the stakes that we're faced with. And I think that's that kind of clarity of the level of evil and destruction of life on the one hand, and that what is being embraced by that. And then the hope on the other side, which is most of the world doesn't want this shit, right? Because it's just idiotic. Renewable energy is the cheapest fucking energy we have. We could be going into a position of ubiquitous energy, meaning there's more energy than we actually need. We actually could get to that point, right? Where energy could be essentially free. That's what they're afraid of, right? If you can't control energy by making it scarce and by making it difficult to produce, you can't control people as well. Because the more we actually unleash the the resources of the world that people can use it for themselves and have control over it because it's so cheap, then they have less power, right? Literally. Energy is power. So I think it's just more about setting the stakes.
Is that one of those abundance things? Are you an Ezra Klein reader?
Oh my God. Yeah, well, let's talk about it because those abundance people are cozying up with the fucking fascists as well. I mean, the abundant. Oh yeah, absolutely. The abundance people are full of shit. The abundance are just fucking tech bros trying to put a Panglossian, brushstroke on their nonsense. Because they don't.
That's a very big, sweeping statement.
Well, but if you look at they're not taking on ending fossil fuels, for instance. They're like, that's not part of the abundance thing. They are actually. I mean, you see it. We could.
Real quick, who are you talking?
Yeah,
who the fuck are you talking?
Well, speaking of extracting resources via using power, this might not connect. I'm just gonna introduce the story.
Okay,
Doge,
but I do have a good connection to that, but we can come back.
Okay, so Doge broke into the U.S. Institute of Peace. I don't know if you guys saw this.
Yeah.
But USIP is a nonprofit. It's an independent organization. It was originally created by Congress, but they're outside the government. They're independent. And what they do is they try to stop conflicts around the world from turning into war. And to bring this back to resource extraction, the Congo, which has been like volatile, that's where Elon and Tesla get cobalt. So it's interesting that they came for an independent organization aimed to stop issues, and that could be one of the areas that they focus on.
Well,
what's the implication here? That
the implication
they're getting rid of USIP because they want to start a war in the Congo.
No,
so
that's not the reason. I just thought that was an interesting link. That's
okay.
I don't know.
There are direct links like USAID criticizing Starlink and them going after that, and USAID helping undermine apartheid, and Musk loving apartheid and missing apartheid like his binky. So most of what he's doing is directly related to him being able to channel billions in contracts into his company and him being able to control things. And then just the cruel evisceration of people who aren't rich. They've destroyed Social Security. Social Security is starting to fall apart. It's literally starting to fall apart. They have destroyed the phone systems. They have destroyed all the systems. You can't get appointments. They are literally undermining the most successful, efficient, and popular social program. So there's the direct looting, and then there's just the joyous evisceration of the poor that seems to be behind every single thing that Musk is doing.
But Joe Rogan told me that he's not trying to steal our money. He has $400 billion. Why would he want to steal my money when he already has so much money? He doesn't need my money. He's not going to steal my money.
You keep telling yourself that.
I do have a story that I wanted to talk about, and it does kind of go into the whole taking people's resources and oil and stuff. So I live in Canada, and right now we are having an election. And one of the big scandals that has come out is that I was going to say Governor Danielle Smith, but she's the Premier Danielle Smith. So basically, we're stepping a little bit towards U.S. annexation of Canada. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith went on Breitbart, which, as you know, is the very trusted news network. And then she caused a huge stir with many people calling her a traitor.
Take a listen to what the Premier of Alberta said when asked if Canadians are likely to vote Conservative.
Before the tariff war, I would say yes. I mean, Pierre Poilievre is the name of the Conservative Party leader, and he was miles ahead of Justin Trudeau. But because of the what we see as unjust and unfair tariffs, it's actually caused an increase in the support for the Liberals. And so that's what I fear, is that the longer this dispute goes on, politicians posture, and it seems to be benefiting the Liberals right now. So I would hope that we could put things on pause pause, is what I've told administration officials. Let's just put things on pause so we can get through an election. Let's have the best person at the table make the argument for how they would deal with it. And I think that's Pierre Poilievre.
Okay, so as I said, Smith is denying accusations as she asked the U.S. administration to interfere in Canadian politics, even though she kind of said it there in terms of calibrating what they're doing. Her office gave a statement saying any suggestion the Premier is asking the U.S. to interfere in Canada's election is offensive and false.
If you let us get into power, we might give you Canada. But on
She's
terms
basically-
that we're the ones to negotiate giving Trump Canada.
I mean, look, if you just heard that and you think it sounded like she just admitted to talking to a hostile foreign government to change their policy in order to favor a candidate that is more, quote, aligned with the Trump administration, it may sound like election interference or sedition or even treason, but you know what? That's not true, because she denies any wrongdoing and says that she only hopes for there to be no tariffs. So that's what that is. That's the real shit.
And apparently denying is now enough to get you out of any crime.
Didn't do it.
Not
Didn't
me.
do it.
Didn't do it. Should we rob
like
some
the-
banks and then just try that defense?
It's like Shaggy. It wasn't me.
It wasn't me. She only caught me in the shower. It wasn't me. Caught me doing some sedition. It wasn't me.
Leaking
I've
secrets
been
on
having on Breitbart.
Signal app. It wasn't me.
I forget who published it or where I saw this. I'll have to find it again. But there was a story about India interfering or supporting Pierre Poilievre or something to get him into power.
So the story there is that also earlier this week, I thought that was gonna be too inside baseball for what might be majority American audience, but basically our intelligence agency CSIS, which is kind of like the NSA here, alleged to the media, wasn't able to put an official report, but basically just leaked to the media, India got this guy elected to his party leadership position. They went in and they did some shit and they ensured that Pierre Poilievre would be elected, and he's not the only one, and he has known this for a long time, but at the same time Pierre Poilievre refuses to get briefed on this because he needs to get security clearance. So he refuses to get his security clearance so he can be officially warned that India did this shit, even though he knows full well what fucking happened. So that's kind of that's what people are angry about here as well. So maybe another, where do his loyalties lie?
Who does he work for? The CIA?
But there's also some other things happening with Canada. There's a lot, but I don't know if you've seen stories of there's been multiple Canadian women who have been detained by ICE. Some of them have been detained for multiple weeks now. There's the one chick who is in isolation for 8 days. But they're now, and they have work visas or whatever. There's another gentleman with a green card who's originally from Germany. He's been in America for 10 years, has a child and a wife, went on a business trip, came back to America, got detained because he has a green card. Just things like that is scary. But there is some hope in this, in that, specifically in LA. I'm sure it's happening other places now, but this clip is in LA. But neighbors are warning each other when ICE is in the neighborhood. They have megaphones. They're reminding all their neighbors of their constitutional rights, encouraging them not to open their doors, not to answer any questions. They don't have to open the door unless they have a valid warrant. It has to be accurate, all the information. It has to be signed by a judge. So they're just giving information so people can protect themselves when ICE are doing their shit. And I just think that's helpful.
And we're dropping a link from the ACLU about knowing your rights, and we'll put it in the text, because resistance is not futile and protecting the people around you is not. And this is part of, there's so many alarming trends, and that's the idea of flooding the zone and trying to overwhelm us. But when you look at the folks who were kidnapped and sent to El Salvadorian prisons for being members of Venezuelan gangs, that's continued. That like one guy has an autism awareness tattoo because of his kid. Someone else had a Real Madrid tattoo. There was another, the randomness of who they're picking up is Venezuelan person with a tattoo means you're now a terrorist and going to a violent prison in El Salvador. That speech is, and this is sadly, the Biden administration absolutely laid the table for this, but they are now just kidnapping off the street students who have green cards, students who have legal things, just for having written an editorial in favor of Palestinians, or having taken part in a protest, but not having broken any laws. So there's, sorry, let me pull up. There's a Tufts University international graduate student, Rumeysa Ozturk, who's a Turkish national, that they just literally show up, no ID, no uniforms, grabbed her off the street. She's in Louisiana. There's a Columbia student named Yunseo Chung, who's been here, who's a legal permanent resident, who's lived here since she was 7, just showed up at a demonstration at Columbia, and they are now trying to hunt her down. She's actually suing them. So everyone knowing their right, and this is where that poem, first they came for, is like, if anybody in America thinks that they're going to stop at green card holders, right? They're going to keep moving it. So everybody needs to know the rights, and everybody needs to be, the people who said defund ICE were always right. We were always right. The people who said ICE should not be funded. ICE is a fascist, racist, horrible piece of shit organization that came out of the Patriot Act, and it should be defunded. Absolutely. We were right. We were right all along. Everybody needs to know and try and be the sand in the gears of the blatantly illegal and unconstitutional work that ICE is doing, arresting and kidnapping people and sending them into foreign prisons or wherever the hell they want to.
Word.
Super cool.
Well, there's also, I had another little cute little thing here that was like really sweet. But there was a cross-border protest across the Detroit River, and Canadians and Americans had made signs for each other. And like all the Americans were like apologizing to Canada and like, oh, we love you. And like, it's really good. I put a link. You can see some of the pictures, but it's just like, it's really wholesome that we all know we're all in this together. It's the stupid pieces of shit that,
well, if I was,
I went to Detroit last year, and I gotta say, I kind of like the vibe there. I think there's a lot to like in Detroit and whatnot, but which way did Michigan go again?
Voting wise?
Yeah, which way did it go?
I don't remember. I thought it was blue.
No, I think.
Or was it red?
I'm pretty sure. Sorry, I should know this. I know all of this. No, Trump won it. Trump won it.
Yeah, you didn't do well enough there, guys. So. Yeah. You're all dead to me in Detroit. Fuck all of you. And
you're going to join on the fuck around and find out, punish everybody.
Honestly, we're now seeing fucking 25% tariffs on the car parts that we send your way. Fuck you. You have to pay more for cars now. So but
let's also look at how they look at what they're doing. For instance, in Wisconsin, there's a Supreme Court race that Musk is literally giving random people, $1 million for signing a petition to try and get the reactionary on the Supreme Court to reverse things. I mean, this is part of the thing is they just
you just get $1 million for signing a petition?
Yep. No, I mean it's like a lottery kind of thing that if you sign it, it's throwing another $1 million into next week's Supreme Court. Just went to one voter for signing a petition. They are just trying to buy it. I think they're going to lose it, and that's the other side to it. But to tie back to my ode to anime's apocalyptic visions, on the positive side, which is every time I look at what's going on in the world now, everybody who's ever loved any epic tale, and that could be from Gilgamesh to Lord of the Rings to whatever it is, right? Whether it's anything that the struggle, the existential struggle against evil, where people stood up and made a difference. We are in the biggest epic struggle that humanity has ever faced and life on earth has ever faced. And that's the thing when you were saying, Hannah, you know, we all know that we're in this together. Like, that's what I feel like should be imbuing every day of everybody's life now on this planet is like, are you standing up? Are you, in whatever way, and it's going to be different for different people, are you, when, you know, Sauron is taking over Middle Earth, are you one of the people who's just like, well, you know, maybe we should just deal with the new regime? Or are you, you know, you fucking Frodo?
I've never watched Lord of the Rings. Can you use another reference?
It is in men that we must place our hope.
Who knew assassinations would actually be good?
Oh my god!
Because
are you trying to get me deported?
Hold on. The Japanese government dissolved the Mooney Church, which, for context, years ago, that one dude assassinated their prime minister, Abe, with his rad gun that he built, killed him because Abe had ties to this like kind of extremist religious, kind of like Christian cult they called themselves the Moonies. This guy was aggrieved by it because the Moonies took all his family's money, bankrupted him. So he walked up with, like I said, his super cool ass gun, fucking just gave it to him, killed him. And then because of that, the Japanese have dissolved the Moonies and got rid of it. So a lot of people are like, wow, like this is a good thing that happened, because the Moonies are also kind of like Scientology, prey on the weak, the vulnerable, stealing money. A lot of people go into bankrupt because of them. But yeah, now they're gone, all because this man had the power to stand up with his super cool fucking gun. And
why is it so cool?
What?
Oh, he made it himself.
I can't tell which side you're on. You're like, I'm pro killing fucking Shinzo Abe with a cool gun. You're making it sound like a Japanese like anime. Where like that's the
we're back.
Just like,
Here,
what is this? One of these like 7 foot long guns?
Here, I'll find it. I'll put it in the chat.
Also, the Moonies in the U.S. are absolutely pro-fascist. They have the Washington
they're not
Times.
It's the Sun Myung Moon. Okay, these people, they're mass wedding people.
Yeah, the mass wedding. But they're just
yeah. These people are fucking insane.
Yeah,
they're
so
insane.
They're
They're fascists. They're gone.
Yeah,
so they're just not allowed in Japan anymore.
Yeah,
in
they're
Japan.
dissolved. Their whole religion's dissolved. Everything is gone. Like,
Except for they're probably just put all their money in the United States, where they're welcome because they're pro-fascist.
yeah, I'm sure. But hey, you know
also
what?
Do you think we could get sponsorship money?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Duct tape.
It's like duct tape, iron rods. Yeah. Bunch of
Sick, dude.
sweet shit. So I don't know. Like I'm saying, it's just kind of cool though. Like this is a good thing. Like,
bruh,
I wish
which part is a good thing? You can't
Ending
just
the
say
Moonies.
killing people is a good thing on
Well,
fucking,
you know.
on a podcast.
Well, you know, like
The entire sequence and the result, however one might feel about the process, the result of ending the Moonies in Japan is undeniably.
Oh my
a
god,
good
we're gonna
result.
get so fucking attacked by the Moonies because of this.
Also, you know,
Well,
like,
you know, that's a great
I'll
way
leave
to
it up
build
you,
traffic.
Audience, what is the good part? That's
What
up
is
to
it?
you.
This is a moral question we are posing to our audience.
That's the gift God gave you, was free agency to choose what you think is good. So anyways, no, it's cool.
Undeniable.